Are we talking? Is this on?
Yeah, it's on.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, but Ilford.
I will cut into it.
Okay, got it.
And when I'm going to say cut, and he's going to go again.
Got it.
Are we ready? We're going? Or are we in line? You got, all right, children, it's the first day of school. Please line up.
I am not holding hands.
And follow along.
I am not holding
we follow along. We come in here. We're slowly walking.
Good grief.
And we're walking. You know how to do this?
I know how to do this.
Yeah, this is your first time, I can tell.
Wait, which chair do I sit?
Well, the one in the middle.
Oh,
the one in the middle.
Huh.
It seems a little, yeah. You ready? Ready?
There we go. There we go.
Hi.
Hi.
All right. Look at that.
Look at that.
Seems a little crowded in here.
It does.
I mean, you know, there used to be more room.
I know.
You're awfully close to me right now. And it's not because we... No, stop that. No, stop that. Howdy, y'all. I'm Mr. Holga.
I'm Todd Puckett.
And I'm Anson Brody.
Whoa, we got somebody here.
We do. And this is Don's used photo equipment.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, before we get to Anson Brody.
Yes.
Okay. By the way, guys, this is Anson Brody. We've been talking about him forever.
Yeah.
Before we get to Anson Brody, how do you like this shirt? You like this?
A tribute?
It's
to the great
it's
Texas
almost
band.
not a tribute because, as you know, I've actually worn a T-shirt or two, and then the person has passed away.
Yep.
And as I told Todd last week, I came this dangerously close to selecting this shirt for the last video, and I would have had another notch in the T-shirt belt there. I would have.
Yep.
And you kind of could have started swearing that it was
paranoid,
me. I am concerned about what T-shirts I wear.
When he picks a T-shirt out, he's like, okay, who can pass away, and I don't care.
Exactly. So if you don't like the Beatles and you want Paul McCartney to bite it, I've got a T-shirt, and put that in the comments.
No, guys. That's rude. That's rude.
All right, so on to the most important thing.
So what happened to your Weird Al Yankovic?
Well, no, Weird Al, he survived.
He survived.
Weird Al survived.
Okay. I knew that was in there somewhere.
Okay. It was Eddie Van Halen who didn't survive. So.
Eddie didn't.
Eddie did not survive.
He wore a Van Halen T-shirt.
That was a bad coincidence. So today's video, guys, we're going to try and be as on topic as we possibly can. That's why we have the wonderful Anson Brody here.
First time for everything.
Of course, we do have lots of questions for him. And first of all,
some of them
we're going to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
Okay.
What?
I'm thinking that the D stands for Dwight. What do you think the D stands for? $, right?
No.
I wish.
It's just
or
D.
Please tell me it's just D, as in D-E-E.
No, just D. Just D. Not Sandra D.
It's for devious.
Devious. It's even better. I like that. Devious. So, because we just call him Brody. We just hey, Brody this, Brody that.
Anson.
But of course, in the videos, we always say it's Anson Brody. And by the way, guys, he's got a phenomenal Instagram account, and I hope you go check out his work and things like that.
And it's DANSON.
It's the letter D, Anson Brody. I'm going to put it on the screen for him.
I always tell people it's Dancing Brody.
Dancing Brody.
Yeah, and they go, he's not dancing at all in the pictures, man.
No,
not at all. So, Brody, tell us a little bit about yourself, so that they can be properly educated as to
what's your
who you are.
sign?
Yeah.
I'm a photographer and musician. It's about 50-50 as far as my work. I do a lot of analog work, especially in dry plates.
Analog.
Yes, analog.
What's exact analog? That's like digital, right?
Yeah.
But digital with like glass?
Yes. There's actually glass digital.
Well, I was thinking lenses, but digital with film and all that
it's the hard stuff. Hard stuff.
Right. So yeah, it's just a handmade film essentially. It's just on glass instead of that acetate, and it's not machine made. It's all made from scratch.
Artisanal.
By hand. Yes,
artisanal. Analog does not have to be just the plastic film base.
Yeah.
It's multiple things.
It could be on tin for a tin type.
Right.
Yeah, tin type, like Lisa Malay does.
Exactly.
So,
glass, silver, copper.
Yeah.
All sorts of things.
So analog is a very flexible word with meaning and understanding.
So you're here in town, and of course that's one of the things. It's like I saw him on the weekend. I said, "Hey, how much longer are you going to be in town for?" So you're actually in Dallas right now. You're working on a project which we're not allowed to discuess. Right now.
We're not going to talk about.
And so you mentioned it.
Sure.
Well,
cool. No. I'm saying you're working.
I'm working on a project.
You could be anywhere.
Project.
Anywhere.
Working on a project.
You just happen to be here right now for us to discuss.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
But your home base is
Chicago.
Mm-hmm. Now, were you born in Chicago?
Born in the Midwest.
There?
So born in the middle. So South Bend's a couple hours from Chicago. And then I've been down in Texas, though, 15 years. So I only recently went back up there.
Right.
They're in the middle of winter.
in the middle of winter.
Always a great time to move to Chicago when it's cold.
Where it's 3 feet of snow.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, what kind of photography do you do other than, like I said, artisanal? I mean,
how did you get into photography? That's
a good question.
How did you get into?
Well, I have to have photos taken for records, for promo, for all sorts of things as a musician. So I got into it with the photographer who did all the photos for my record, which is on Spotify, iTunes, all that.
Okay.
Shameless. Yeah, we'll put a link somewhere.
Shameless.
I don't think I can put that above it, but we'll put those links down in the comments.
We'll
see, normally the links will go above Todd's head, but we're going to put them down there in the description.
When this thing comes out, you'll notice at least one or two streams.
Yeah. Okay. New So I got into it with another Dallas cat here named Cal Quinn. And I started picking up digital and doing live concert photography because that was
digital
at first, right? And then I switched over to a Hasselblad, and started doing medium format. Now I'm obsessed with large format, and that's about all I shoot anymore.
And probably 90% how large format are we talking about?
4x5, 8x10.
Okay, so not ultra large yet, just large.
Not ultra large yet. I'd love to own one, but those cameras are expensive.
They are pretty expensive.
8x10 is hard enough sometimes.
Yeah, it's costly, but the prints are amazing.
They're amazing.
Yeah.
And what types of photography? All right, landscape, portrait, street photography. What do you do?
So mostly it was that live event photography for a long time, and then I started doing artist portraiture, and that's kind of where I'm at now. I really like doing that. I do some landscape, some. I'm in Chicago, so I'm getting a chance to do a lot of architecture, cityscape type stuff. But that's kind of an experiment. I do a lot of macro sort of musical instrument shots, so kind of close
on 8x10.
On 8x10.
Yeah.
So just studies of, especially I like old instruments, old 50s Gibsons and stuff like that.
Okay.
So that's
and that's another fun whole other conversation.
And just
so one day we'll have you back in here and
some
do
nice,
like
well-worn, well-played instruments.
I love those.
Yeah,
I love those, especially professional ones.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the focus of our lovely video here today is obviously we're going to be talking about glass plates, which is something that you've got. He does a lot. Yeah, Brody does that a lot. I'm only dipping my my toe into the pond just a little bit.
That's okay.
It says, how did you first get into? Okay, you went from digital to film.
Mm-hmm.
What made you veer off into glass plates?
The way that it looked, it has that ortho look because it sees blue so much stronger. It doesn't see red at all, which we'll get into in a minute. But especially for portraits, it just has a look that is, depending on the person, either kind of alien, or you feel like, wow, that's a really intimate photo. And I like dancing between those. For some people, it's like, oh, that's weird. That's not me. I don't like it. And then some people are like, wow, I've never seen myself like that. That really is special. And
different. It's different.
Right. So I've gotten into that.
But whose work were you following whenever you went on to look at glass plates? Was there a person that you looked at, or just field in general?
It was just the field in general. Of course, I came across Jason Lane's stuff, which we'll get into him in a bit. But it was just in general. I liked the more neutral tone of dry plate. So I went with that instead of wet plate, which has generally a little more warm sort of tone. And just by looking at it, not knowing about the processes at all, I said, okay, out of all these old 19th century things, just by the look alone, what do I like the best? And I like dry plate the best for the look.
I mean,
so reverse engineered it. It's like, this is what I like. How do I get that?
Exactly.
I mean, just by taking a shot on glass plate, it looks like the shot could easily be 100 years old. But you just taken it, and it just has. There's something that draws you into that. Even with, and now I only shot just a few, but even when you have your minor imperfections and the coating around the edges and things like that, and the slightly off in the bluish and things like that, it just so draws you into the picture because it's otherworldly at that point. It's like, how did I take a picture that's 100 years old? And I just shot it. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. But okay, now once you saw that, then where did you go pick up your first boxes of film?
You.
No, the answer to the question there, Todd?
Fishing for that. Yeah. Just come on, pull those words out.
So Don's Used Photo. You got your first glass plates at Don's Used Photo.
Imagine that. Imagine that. No, because nobody else in Dallas has that right now.
That's
I
right.
know of.
That's right. Nobody else. There is not that you're aware of. There's nobody else.
Yeah, not that I'm aware of.
No,
people get things
not
in
at all.
and I don't know about, but I try to keep up with what's going on locally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's fun to have things that are different, and then have people like it, and really just dive into it.
Yeah.
And that's what you've done. And I tell you,
Thanks.
you went after the 4x5s and then up to the 8x10s, and
That's it.
And it's just, you're not looking back.
Yeah, that's it. I'm not. It's still my favorite. I've gotten into some wet plate. I'm working my way towards Baccarel daguerreotype.
Okay.
It's just, it's still my favorite. I'm just sort of learning those because I like the way the processes work. I like working with the process. But as far as like the look, I'm still
so
pretty
dry
sold
mount's
on
your
dry
foundation.
plate.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Dry mount's your foundation. And this is what we're going to talk about a little bit more of. And then, but from that later on, we'll talk about just all the things you're jumping off into from that.
Yeah.
That's what's so fun is that it's not, this is what I love about photography. You never learn everything there is about it.
No,
never. And then once you get close to even coming close to think you're learning it, there's so many other avenues to take and roads to venture down off of it. And that's fun.
Yeah.
It's just really cool.
So let's talk about glass plates, because ultimately that's what we're here to talk about today. Hopefully, Brody here is going to give us lots of tips and tricks for these things. I've been asking him some questions, learning a little bit myself.
And I'm going to sit here and nod.
Okay. Gotcha.
Well, you have to apologize. I have to apologize now.
Oh, my goodness.
Because I'm going to decline.
The
photo.
All right.
And I'll probably cut a few of these out.
Your wife will understand that.
No, it's actually my second place daughter. So, some tips and tricks on how to do these things, because it's not really apparent right off the bat what you're doing. And now I've got this lovely little box of the 4x5s, the 10 that I have shot.
Yep.
And of course, right off the bat, I didn't know that the actual 4x5s are notched, just like a sheet of film. And I didn't know that until after I'm opening the mystery box, because once again, like any large format, it's a box within a box. And then you don't know if within that box you're going to have a bag or thing like that. So it's like you do this in the dark, hoping, or under the red light, because you can do these under red light.
Because it's Orotone.
And you're wondering, it's like, how far until I actually reach the the actual glass plates itself. So it was actually nice that these were notched. But you said that the larger sizes are not notched.
They're not notched. No.
So
at least from Jason's Jason's plates.
So I can actually say this. I've only shot Jason Lane's glass plates.
It just makes it so easy. He coats so many that his consistency is really good. I've coated some of my own, but it's a heck of a process. It takes a couple of days just because things have to sit overnight.
Okay.
And the consistency isn't that, and it's not like I save all that much money doing that. So I just buy Jason stuff. It's consistent, really, and I can just get it. Yeah, the prices
it's nice to know how to do it, but
right.
It's so much easier to have somebody else.
Right.
Do
I mean, out of outsource, so I can make more prints or shoot more photos.
And
because time is money on that.
And so obviously, I got the plates here.
Now these plates, 10 sheets, 4x5, is $40.
Okay.
All right. So we'll take your word for that.
Okay.
I got it on a sheet around here somewhere.
And then the 8x10s are
80, isn't it? Yeah, just
80,
double.
and that's only 5.
That's only 5 plates.
Right.
But if you take these and then do them out to that, it's the same thing.
It's the same price per square inch. Yeah.
Okay.
And boxing it up. Yeah.
And I also got 2 4x5 holders. Now, of course, if you wanted to really do your whole box, obviously you get 5 of these, and then you could put all 10 of them in.
Yes, absolutely.
And the question for Todd is
there anything in here?
Yes, there is something. Wait a second. There are glass plates in one of the holders. Which one? Here you go. Here's the other one. Which one?
Well, you've got
Oh, he wins.
Because what you should have.
No, because these push through. Because these can't. There's plates in there.
There's plates in there, and also it's heavier. But you actually are supposed to have these switched on the black side.
Well, I know, but I thought that as I was unloading them, I actually thought about it. I was like, with this, the fact that I can just determine, all I did is push that in, and I was like, oh, well, I know there's no plates in there.
True.
I'm good.
Now,
all good.
These
don't open those.
No, I'm not. 4x5, but they're thicker.
They are a
the
little
glass.
bit, yes.
And these are new made by Chroma Green.
Homographica.
Chromographica.
So
which is also
now,
Jason Lane.
So let's say if this is a tip for you as well. So the first time I put plates in here, it was very hard. I was actually worried that I was going to break the glass plates getting them in there.
Yeah.
But the second time, not nearly as hard.
Yeah, they do break in. And sometimes the dark slides are a little tight, but that's just good tight tolerance, and you wear through them, and it becomes very normal, like anything else. So that works out really well. As far as like
but you've got the big ones. You've got the 8x10s.
I got the big 8x10 one. And what's great about them?
Look at the difference on these things. Man. It's just so much fun.
Yeah. The thing I like about these, not only that they pull out like that so you can see what you have, but they also help you to push the plates out.
Right. That's really what it's for, is to help push the plate out.
So the design on the new ones are way better. I have one of the older style Graflex ones here, and they don't have that feature.
They don't have a push.
They don't have a push. They load a little easier because they just go in.
Oh, okay.
There's no sliding them in. The problem with that is if your camera is at an angle,
they'll tilt forward.
They'll tilt forward when you try to push this in, and then you'll get stuck, and you won't be able to do that, and you'll scratch up your plates and everything else like that. So these are okay
for flat screen shooting.
For flat screen shooting, or for your I have two of these, and I just put one in here. So these work great, but this is a much better design. So I'm really about these, and getting them out of this. It's a bit tricky too, because you kind of do have to touch it to get them out, and that depending on the temperature, or make a mark on your emulsion, because that emulsion is very soft.
I'm assuming sweaty fingers are a bad thing. So
right, or just it being a little hot outside.
Yeah, right.
Which in Texas happens.
Oh my God, it's hot today.
So with the old ones. So with the old ones, you just put the plate in. With these, they slide in from the bottom just like film.
Just like your regular film holder. You've got a couple little spring backs.
Secured, exactly. So they're secured, and that's nice and tight.
Right.
And it wears through. You just got to be mindful when you're putting them through.
So now, like I said, for the 4x5s, these things were notched, so that I could actually determine what the top corner is. Is there any determinant on the 8x10s or other sizes?
So I've gotten so used to it that I can feel which side has the emulsion and which doesn't.
Okay.
If you're new to it, another way to do it is to take into your dark bag with you a little key or something, and just scratch the very corner. And if you feel emulsion come off,
there's a notch right there at the top. Right just a little bitty divot.
There. Right. So you mind if I see that?
No, which, of course, I didn't notice until after I've developed them. I was like, I thought for sure I chipped the top of the plate. I'm like, what did I do? Did I? But then I realized they all had a notch. I'm like, oh, if only I knew there was a notch there. That would have been so cool to know.
So with 5x7, 8x10, and larger, if I can't see in the darkroom, if I'm under red light, I can clearly see which side has the emulsion on it. It'll be more matte. It won't reflect as perfectly.
Okay, great.
So that's easy to tell. But if I'm in a dark bag, I can tell by feel, but that's just, I do it a lot.
Okay,
but if you don't have experience, you can take a key and just scratch the tiny little corner. And if you feel emulsion come off, that's the emulsion side. And if not, then that's the glass side.
Okay.
And it's all going to be covered by this edge anyway.
Oh, yeah.
So you're not going to affect your image that way. But you can also just, get an idea by feel after a certain amount of time.
Sure.
So that's kind of one of the first tips.
So I have to make sure it's at least motion set up. There we go.
And when we say red light, so a lot of dark rooms are orange light for prints.
Right.
That is not going to work. You definitely want a
orange
red
light is no bueno, guys.
Yeah.
No bueno. Only the red light. As I do have one of those red dome. As a matter of fact, you sell those red dome lights, don't you? The little ones?
Or like a Kodak 1A filter on.
Okay.
If you have those kinds of lights. Or they have grow lights that are 720 to 780 nanometers.
Okay.
As a bulb they use them for growing plants indoors.
Okay.
Plants.
Yeah.
Indoors.
Sure. Agriculture.
And those work really well. And the thing is under that red light, even under dim red light, you only have about 15 minutes of working time, which isn't a big deal for most things. But when we get into prints, which we'll talk about later, that can be
well,
a concern.
the development process, for it's 5 minutes for the developing, and that's enough time to clearly get it out, get it developed, and get it.
For most people, it's not
installed.
going to be a big deal. By the time they're in the fix, it's not going to fog or do anything.
Right.
And since we're dealing with negatives, if there's a tiny fog, it's not going to, like, you still have all your detail there. It's still going to be fine.
See, I guess I didn't read. There's
there's a notch.
See, once again, I didn't read instructions. There's the notch right there on the back of it.
This isn't hidden or with an apostrophe.
No,
very.
It's so far down the instructions. I did not read that far. Okay, I don't read. You should have made that first. Oh, by the way, there's a notch.
No, that's plenty obvious.
So
although I saw it, I didn't know what it was.
So let's talk a little bit about developing.
Okay.
Because obviously we're going to need to talk about some shooting as well. But I developed the first set I developed. I did pan development, so I tray development. I just had the trays out, and I did it under red light.
Perfect.
And of course, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever the actual numbers are, and then I just put them in a water bath. The other way I did it today, which I had less success only because I didn't expose correctly for the plates. I did a tank, which essentially is the same 5.2 and 5 minutes.
Sure.
How do you develop?
So I develop by inspection. So you can set a time like that, 5 minutes or whatever. But because you're under red light, it's one of the beautiful things is that if you need to push it, you'll see that your blacks are too clear on your negative.
Okay.
So you'll just let it sit in there a little longer, and you can check to see if you can develop that in. Or maybe you overshot and you need to cut that time. Really, you're looking for a good negative. You don't want something too thin or too thick, and if anything, a thicker negative is better because it prints the older processes better.
Okay.
So like if you were going to print albumin or, carbon or any of those older 19th centuries, having a really good dense negative is beneficial.
So you really recommend the tray developing so you can watch it?
Absolutely.
So the 4 that I did today in the dark tank, which were, they were underexposed or whatever, I probably could have brought out more detail if I was watching them.
Absolutely.
See, you just learn. You learn something new here. It's fantastic.
Also, like film, there's all sorts of developers. T-Max, HC110, Xtol, D76 are really common. Some of the ones that are really good for film are a little bit low contrast, a little bit slow for a dry plate, something like Xtol.
Right.
They will work. But what I really recommend is Ilfotec HC or HC110.
Well, that I did read that far on here because not only did it says it wants the HC110, it says it wants dilution
B.
Dilution B or whatever it is.
Absolutely, yeah.
B, and of course, every time I have to go look that up, it's like, well, what is that B?
31 milliliters to 1,000 milliliters of water, or up to 1,000.
Yeah.
So that works really well to give you a good contrast and a nice dense development in a regular amount of time, because the longer it goes, the weaker the developer gets, and so on. The longer it's in the bath. That's kind of the idea behind what do we call it? Stand development. But,
about so I mixed up like 1,000 milliliters today. How many plates would you get in a normal development?
So I'm doing 8x10.
Right.
So for 8x10, I use 300 milliliters of each thing in a flat bottom tray. That is another key thing with these plates. You want to use, at least on your developing side, a flat bottom tray, because you will get the lines of those Patterson trays.
Oh, really? Interesting.
They will develop a little unevenly. Because
I thought that would have been better to hold them off the bottom just a little bit that you can.
You're putting them in emulsion up, so you want to make sure that the emulsion is facing up.
Right.
And so the glass side's down, and you want that to be flat.
Okay.
At least on the development part, which is really critical.
That's another good one then.
Of course, I learned that the hard way.
So what is it? What does it do to the back of the plate then? Is it just...
It makes like an uneven line. You'll see like it won't
strips.
It'll be like this part isn't developed as evenly as this other part.
Interesting.
So, and I have some early plates, some of my first plates of this model, actually. They're on my Instagram, some of my very first plates.
Instagram guys, go check it out.
And you can see my progression with this stuff really clearly. you know, the very first ones, you could see that mist development on that, where there's a strip where that Patterson line was, or just, you know, the grooved trays, which are great for prints.
Yeah, I know, but it's like
that's okay. I've already got a good scan of that one.
Yeah, there we go. Now it's like it's really hard to see.
Well,
but I mean, it is. Yeah, there we go.
There you go.
Yeah, so it's really, but the thing of it is you sit there and see this and you go, okay, well, great. There's not a whole lot of detail on this, or it's just, you know, like you only see the person and you don't see anything around it. But when you process, I mean, when you make a print of this or an image of this, there's a lot of stuff out here that comes up in the photo that you're not
and
seeing.
You can see like on this edge here, like these little marks.
Yeah.
And you'll see little spots in different places. And there's definitely some handmade things. And I can show you how to kind of reduce that or get it to a level that you like, because some people like that sort of found photo dust all over it sort of look with these. Yeah. You know,
but I mean,
the edges, you know, some people smear them on purpose. You know,
it just looks like there's
kind of frame it with like this, these imperfections.
Yeah, I'm always torn when, you know, I do a lot. So when I create an image, I'll probably turn around and put it on the scanner. And of course, the scanner is really what gives me most of my dust between in the scanning process. And I see a lot of people who just, they like leave the dust. It's like, hey, that's part of the picture making process. But it annoys me. I actually go through.
So I got some tips to help you.
But what I'm saying is that look, there's a lot of spots in here where it looks like there's just nothing here. I mean, like in the hair. But whenever you make an image of this, you see all of that there. Absolutely. I mean, everything is there.
Like this is a pretty dense negative for this. And this is so Jason has two different kinds of plates. He has an ISO 25 plate.
Right, which is what I was using.
Right, so that's very friendly for using.
It's a beginner plate. It's a beginner plate, guys.
It's very friendly. Its look is very World War I, pre-World War I sort of era. Okay. Then he has another set of plates which are ISO 2.
Yes, the 2.
And I love those. These are my favorite. They're even more, it's a much older recipe, about 1890s recipe. And it looks very similar in the way that it does skin tones to tintype or to wet plate, which is part of the thing that I really like. And I like the negatives because I can have more what's the stops of dynamic range. I get more dynamic range from a negative than from a wet plate positive would do.
The zone scales.
Exactly. So these are a little bit lower contrast. So for this plate, this is actually really dense. These two ISO 2 plates. This is overexposed, probably two stops.
We will. Well, we'll put up a link to that or photo. Sure. Then it's like all the gaps you see, but
you got to see the details of this one.
It's amazing in there.
So I was using the Massive Dev Chart app for my developing today, and of course it's only rated for the ISO 2. It's not rated for the 25, but the numbers are the exact same for the 25 as far as the 5 minutes, the 2 minutes, and the 5 minutes. So it's kind of interesting that although it's two different emulsion speeds, it's the same amount of developing time. From what I saw. So
yes, as far as the recommended times, because I use the method of doing it by inspection, generally the slower ones I'll put in a little longer.
What he's trying to be very gentle, guys, and say experience. Okay, he wants to say he's had way more experience.
I'm only trying to help. No,
which is fantastic.
I'm mentoring. I'm not.
It's great.
That's
what
we need to find out. That's what we need to hear.
Because had I heard this before I tried to develop those plates today, I probably would have done them all in the tray. And I probably would have watched them a little bit more closely because, as Lisa says, the magic happens in the darkroom. So when you start developing, you start seeing an image.
Ansel Adams said that.
And of course, when you've got them in a tank and you can't see them while they're developing, that's essentially you're blind.
That takes your advantage away.
It does.
Right. So so we've covered the developing.
Yes, we've covered loading and developing.
Okay, we need to get to shooting. Let me think about. So as far as developing, there's one other thing.
Okay.
The emulsion is very soft compared to film.
Yes, you were mentioning the temperature of the film. That's one of the things that you mentioned to me weeks ago. This stuck with me, that you really want to get the temperature of the HC 110 correct.
Right. You definitely want to get your developing temperatures right. You definitely want to use distilled water if you want to have a cleaner plate, because unlike regular film is actually pretty tough.
Okay.
Like you can handle it. And
it's forgiving.
It's very forgiving. Dry plates are not forgiving. If I'm picking it up and I accidentally smear it, well, that emulsion just smears right off.
Yeah.
If during the development or even the drying phase,
right,
it's soft, if dust lands on it, you will never get that dust off. Unlike film, where if dust, a lot of times you can clean it off. So you want to be clean.
I mean, you can like scrape it off with a cloth there with the, just by comparison, you put a cloth on that and you just scrape it right off.
But if that dust falls on it while it's wet,
it
sticks and there's no way to get it back out.
Sticks.
So
I was looking for that one cloudy scene that I took pictures. But I had one that had some gunk on it essentially, and some people would look at that and say, well, that's just part of the picture. It's just what it is. Because when it comes to tin types and things like that, you really don't get much chance to fix those either. So whatever is part of the picture is part of the picture.
The last thing that I want to say is that your developing tray, should be very clean. It shouldn't be a tray that you've used for fix before or has a bunch of stains on it. You want is unforgiving.
I'm feeling really bad now.
With prints and film, you can totally get away with that, but with these, they will show. If you want a good clean plate, if you're looking for really clean,
now all the trays are just the developing tray.
The developing tray is the most important. I mean, it'd be great if you could do all of them, but the developing tray is the most important one.
And so, do you dedicate your tray to? Do you write on your tray? So this is developing only. This is fix only.
I don't write it on there, but yes.
So I mean, because
I'm not in like a
one of the things I always do is I always do the wash up, and I like to be pretty thorough in my wash up. So to me, it doesn't really matter which tray I'm going to use after that because they should technically all be clean.
Okay, but I want to
you'll need a flat one anyway, so you should get a flat one as clean as you can get it. And now, dedicate that to plates.
If it's not clean, what are some of the things that you will see because it's not clean? Yeah, you're telling me
you will see little specks all through it. And depending on your print method, it may not show up. Like if you're doing a contact print, they're a little more forgiving than, say, a scan or
an enlargement
or a certain kind of enlargement, not the condenser head. No, the condenser heads.
So
those will show all
spots will appear is one of the big things.
Yes,
with the cross contamination,
big black spots, or sometimes it's just a little pepper everywhere. So stuff like that, and that can happen just from like this stuff that's in the water.
Okay.
So I always am using distilled water. It's not all the time. I noticed that like certain parts of when I was learning all this, that certain dark rooms it was really bad. Some of the water. So whatever's in their pipes on the way to whatever they're doing. Right. But like other ones, it wasn't an issue. And I was trying to figure out what was going on. And the way I solved that was to just use distilled for all my chemistry.
Okay, that's a great tip. Yeah.
And then the wash is okay generally. And then just the final distilled.
Well, I used photo flow.
That's fine.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I didn't use any distilled water, but obviously photo flow. And then, of course, I have like the 10-minute rinse or whatever. And then after that, it's done. So
absolutely. So you stop and fix like normal.
Yeah.
Your rinse is a little longer.
Well, photo flow for 2 minutes and then 10 minutes worth of rinsing. And do you recommend leaving them in a bath for longer or just the 10 minutes?
If you go too long, because it's soft like that, it will actually start to have issues. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So just do the 10 minutes because I thought
10-20 minutes is fine, but just don't leave it in there like
overnight.
Hours.
Don't leave it in overnight
with your fiber prints for 2 hours.
Yeah. What did you do? What would you do wrong if the image just floats off the glass? Because you telling me, somebody was telling me about that.
I had that happen. Yeah,
it's like you're sitting there watching
acidic. I think,
and all of a sudden the image just comes departed from the glass. And it's like, oh, the dearly departed.
Yeah, and that can happen too if you just brush on it just wrong. It'll start to peel.
Okay.
Sometimes it sticks on there pretty good.
So guys, if you have any additional questions, I know we got more to talk about here, but if you have any additional questions, throw them down in the comments. And so we'll get Brody to take a look at them. Maybe he can answer your questions for you.
Sure.
Because these are things you don't think about until you're in the midst of the process, and then you're like, oh my gosh, I wish I could call Brody and get this answer, but I'm in a dark room and I can't even turn on a phone, and I mean, but it's a learning experience.
And sometimes you just don't know. Like sometimes you'll have an error.
Yeah.
And I mean, you just don't know what you did. You did everything just right, and sometimes it just happens. Maybe it was something in the coating. Maybe it was the water. Maybe it was the way it was stored. Maybe a gust of wind from the air conditioner.
Right.
Knocked something in there. So there's still going to be some errors. You're just trying to mitigate that.
The most common ones.
The most common
that
ones,
you have the most control over.
Yeah, unless
well,
you're going for that.
Todd has heard me say this more than once, that when it comes to developing film, a squeegee is my best friend because I will squeegee off the water in the film.
But not
and now, hold on a second. This is film. We're talking about film, guys.
Yes.
I will squeegee off the water, and then I go and hang the film in the shower because that's one of the most dust-free places that I have. Great. And now I realize I'm not going to squeegee off of these glass plates, but I'm also thinking now that we discussed actually getting stuff on them, it's like, should I put those in as dust-free place as I possibly can? Yes. Because I'm assuming it's the same issue.
It's exactly the same issue, but if it gets stuck on there, it'll be stuck in there.
And so yeah, if you get dust on it during the drying period, that is the worst dust ever because it's not coming off. It is just not. It's horrible.
Yeah. Absolutely.
He's helping himself to stock right now.
Yeah, yeah. I'm grabbing this because this is. It's all sealed.
It's all sealed.
It's all sealed.
All right. Well, a drying rack will help.
It definitely will, but you have to put the drying rack in a dust-free place.
Yes. But it will help because it will keep.
Don't put it under a dusty ceiling fan. That's not no way to
work. Not going to work. Okay, so developing, stop, fix. Wash. We covered all that.
All right. So I do have before we get off of that part of it.
One thing. No, but it's like I have a Oric, like a air freshener or air cleaner, something like that in the room would help too because it'll pull all of that little dust spots.
I don't know. To me, it's just like moving air. I like.
But
to put it in the
turn it off whenever
shower
you're doing it
because that's one of the most dust-free places in the house.
Yeah, but turn it off while you're processing it. But turn it on when you're not there so it clears that dust out, and then turn it off whenever you're using it.
If you live in a HEPA filter environment, you're okay. There's dust in my house.
Yeah, so. There is in my place too.
So one last question when it comes to the processing of the glass plates. Obviously for the wet plate, for both the glass and the tin, they put Lisa actually has put varnish on them. Do you varnish your plates, or
you don't have to varnish these?
Okay.
Yep. So that whole step is unnecessary.
It's just not needed.
Once it's dry, that emulsion is pretty tough.
Okay. Excellent.
Yep.
I mean that's great because that's one less step you have to do. I mean, I was like thinking it's like, well, I don't know, do I have to make something to put, like it's almost like laminating is like varnishing. It's like making it a permanent thing, which of course introduces the more particulates into the negative.
So as far as like just storing it really quick, we don't have to do a whole thing on that. But as far as storing it, you can store them back in the box with the paper in between.
Right.
That's a great temporary storage or
so they just come in. They come in the box and they have thin pieces of paper between each one of them. Yep. Don't throw your paper away because this might be how you store all 10 of your glass plates.
And for 4x5, it's probably not as big of a deal, but it is best, they say, to store them
on the
vertically,
on
the edges,
but not with the weight on top of each other.
That would be best. And I have had a couple of plates that I've ruined that way because the top got a little wet or a little oil on it, and it messed up that top plate. So
another tip.
Another tip.
We're just
there is
actually
guys. A product that with the archival print file makes that are 4 dry plates. You don't want to put them in the plastic dry plate things. But there's
too much flex.
Yeah, and you store them in like an old card catalog. It's kind of what it looks like when you have a lot of them.
Okay, very cool. But Print File or Archive makes one of those.
They do. They make a dry plate archival storage.
Oh,
it's like a paper envelope.
But I want one of those to sell.
Yeah. I'll buy them.
I know, but where do I buy them?
From your Print File dealer.
Okay, I will check for that.
So let's talk about shooting then.
Shooting it, yeah, okay. So
I was shooting with a 4x5 speed graphic. Nothing super fancy.
No, you need something large format.
You need large format.
There's no 35 millimeter dry plate.
An SLR is not going to do the trick.
Unless it's one of the large format Graplex ones.
Yeah.
So, large format camera, and you're metering just like film, but it's a very low ISO. So you're metering at ISO 25, right? And it's a negative. Or 2, which is like I said.
I mean, can you get ISO 2 and 4x4?
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right.
Absolutely. They're great. As far as metering, just like film, meter for your shadows, for negative stuff, so that you get that detail
Yeah, because I noticed. So I've got obviously this one I'm looking at here. Obviously, I've got the sky was nice, but obviously my ground was very dark.
Yep.
And of course, obviously, it's an issue with the colors as well. It's the blues that's causing the problems, right?
Right. So yes, that's the other thing with when you're metering and dealing with
contrast,
that. The plates do not see red at all. They don't see it, which is why we can work under red light. It's great. But and why they look alien the way they do on certain skin.
There's a benefit and there's a pro and a con here to this red light business. You're just not going to get.
I'm very rosy cheeked right now because I was in the sun. That will show up darker than it would normally.
Yeah. So if you have a red, it's that old people with red complexions just look like they've been burnt in the sun.
Yeah,
it's like actually seeing into their aura a little bit. You're like, why is my face so dark? It's because you have a naturally red complexion. I'm not pointing to anybody who normally has a red complexion.
Me too. Yeah.
But
and then you have like blue eyes, right? So
which become white.
If you've ever seen those old photos where they look like vampires or something, the eyes are so bright. That's less so with the 25 speed.
Wow.
And it's very pronounced in the ISO 2.
I got hazel eyes.
I'm gonna have to try the 2 now.
So they call these.
I love that. I love that look.
So all right, go.
Ilford, the HP high-speed plate. That's what that means.
High-speed plate. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So that's where, because Ilford was making glass plates 100 years ago.
Right.
We had Mr. Michael Bain come in and give a talk on the history of Ilford.
I've never seen Michael Bain.
He's a real person. I talked to him.
He's talked to him. He's talked to him.
No, I have talked to him.
That's what the HP stands for, is high-speed plate.
But for a while, I thought he's like his invisible friend.
Oh, okay.
That's Harvey. That's a whole nother person.
A whole other guy.
So Harvey and I get along great. He still drops by and says hi.
Okay, that's good.
So
very good.
He's a 6 foot tall rabbit, right?
I do know that.
Yeah.
Yes, he's a puka.
Puka.
See, I have seen that film.
Okay, getting back on topic.
So I told you we were gonna.
I know. I've seen the show.
But did you see the movie?
All right, so we're talking about
Harvey.
We're talking about shooting.
Shooting. So when you're shooting if you're metering off the sky, that's just not going to work for you at all. You're going to have a bad day. So definitely meter in your darkest places. They've got probably 15, 16 stops worth of dynamic range. So even if
very good.
Even if you overshoot, you're going to be okay. You're going to be just fine. Most scenes as far as prints are 9 or so.
Right. So if you're shooting portraits, obviously you're not aiming for the background, which is going to be dark. You're aiming for your models. So,
right.
Yeah,
but whatever the darkest thing is. So I've got like a black hat.
Okay.
So I would meter off the shadow in the black hat.
Okay.
And when I'm developing, so I'm technically overshooting it slightly.
All right.
Like maybe ISO 20 or 15 for 25s. But when I'm developing, I'm just watching for that. So I can see just a slight detail in the hat.
Right.
And then that's when I pull it.
So now you can shoot these as either becoming a negative or making them into a positive with like a backing, right? Can you do that?
Yes.
And do you do either one of those?
I do that. So there's two different ways. Jason has a experimental product which isn't quite out yet, but you might see it on Facebook. It's a black glass embryo type dry plate.
Okay. I have seen talk of that on this pages. Yeah.
So that's not quite a product yet, but I have shot some of those.
No,
I have shot some of those, and they're not trying to emulate a wet plate or anything like that. It's a practically new process. I say practically because there's like a small mention in the history about somebody doing something like that, but there's no schematics on how, or there's no chemicals. So this has been figured out by Lyra Lee, and Jason has helped. So there are that, but what you're talking about is using these exact same plates.
Right.
You can make glass prints. Essentially, they're prints.
Right.
They're not. You're not getting a direct positive. You're using basically the glass as just like your darkroom paper.
Right.
With some differences. Obviously, it'll be clear. So,
yes.
So all your whites on the print will be clear.
Right.
And you print it just like you do. You can do a contact print, or you can use an enlarger and make it that way. So you can take your 4x5 and make a 1620 glass print if you want. I've done that a bunch of times.
Okay.
And so that works out really well. And how you get that to look more like a print is that you back it with either a white backing,
right,
or a white piece of glass. But what's also cool is that you can change the tones by changing that backing.
Yeah, to a different color.
Yeah, to a different color.
But it still has to be a light color, right? So that it kind of shows. Yeah.
Generally, yes. So like, a cream or like a yellow or something, like just all these slightly hued tones. So it adds a lot of creativity on top of, you can tone it just like you do any print. You can tone it with sepia, selenium, gold. You can do all of that and then mess with the backing. So there's quite a lot of creativity in the printing of this that you can do. One of the things that I'm doing right now is I'm using gold leaf. And so you get what's called an orotone.
Todd mentioned that to me. That sounds really cool.
That's what's called an orotone. So anytime it's gold, sometimes it's gold paint, sometimes it's a gold mirror, like the old 70s bathroom smears.
Okay.
You can do that, and that just adds a really neat dimension to your printing. To be able to do that, it can be heavy, and it's a little more expensive than paper, certainly, because you're paying a film price, not a paper price. But it works really well. It's really fast. So my exposure is all the way stopped down on my 8x10, which is admittedly powerful, and larger, 7 seconds. So I'm not going to be dodging and burning a whole lot. I mean,
not
that's
very much.
Stopped all the way down. So a lot of times what I'll do is make digital negatives, so that all the dodging and burning, cleaning up if I don't like these little specks or something like that, I'll make a digital negative and contact print to my plate, and that way my process is exactly the same all the time. There's no checking times, there's no wasting plates on making sure your times. So like whatever my 7 seconds is, it's always 7 seconds. If it's not right, I change the negative.
Right. So you print a new digital negative too.
Exactly. So make your adjustments, and you keep your process the same all the way through. So that's a super cool way to do it. But you can do it with the enlarger or as a contact print.
Sure.
But I'll say that you can't really mess with the contrast. It's not a multi-layer like paper, where you have all the different layers for different contrast levels with the filters. So you just get what you get with contact printing direct. But if you make a digital negative, you can affect all that in Photoshop, and it will print out exactly what you want if you do all the calibration. In fact, I'm working on calibrations right now. I've got this
here. Oh,
that's okay. I just grabbed it. Oh, you'll hold it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got to be useful somehow.
So this is Pictorico. All the alternative process guys, they like that stuff. And these are 4 different ink sets from a place that I was getting a really large one from, and I need to calibrate my curve to their ink set.
Okay, yeah.
Because they're all slightly different.
I'm actually reading a book on actual digital negatives. This is very cool.
I mean, that could be a whole talk on its own, but I just wanted to show kind of that idea. And you got the different values, and we measure them, and we apply that curve to the Photoshop.
I know. I'm just trying to read everything backwards,
And so you end up with plates like this for your tests.
Adobe RGB 1998.
So you end up with plates like this, that measure this out. And then you take your measurements to adjust your curve off of this actual plate, not this.
Right?
Yeah.
And this is kind of just interesting, right? So for the print plates, there's this is like HC110, and it looks pretty good. But this stuff, which is much darker.
Oh, yeah.
Much darker. You can probably see that just on just on camera, but in person especially, you've got much clearer zeros, and you've got much darker blacks. This is Codolith, which is a period for dry plates, for dry plate printing, and it's a little bit caustic, and it only lasts about 2 hours when you mix it up. So, and each one is a one shot and done.
A little bit caustic.
I got a little bit caustic, yeah. But you can get it from Photographer's Formulary. They sell it in a hobby kit.
But if you order too much of it,
you're gonna get on a DEA list.
You're on a DEA list. Yeah.
But it's fine. You just tell them what you're doing, and it's fine.
A little bit caustic's like saying cyanide's a little bit dangerous.
A little bit dangerous.
So whenever
Mercury, a little bit dangerous.
So whenever I work with the dry plate positive printing, this is, I mean, just the quality of the darkest dark to the lightest lights on the curve is just so much better because all those tones work out in your curve.
Okay.
Right. So I don't use it for negatives because I don't really think it's necessary, and because it's, you know, like I said, a little bit dangerous. It's definitely eye goggles. You know, definitely gloves, no open-toed shoes.
Yeah,
I got a drop of it on a sandal, and it was like getting stung by a hornet. It was not fun. So, I mean, it didn't, you know, just left a little chemical burn, first-degree chemical burn. But, you
lesson learned.
Don't want to put that in your eye, certainly. Don't want to rub your eye.
Not if you like your eyes.
No.
But it's really not that bad. If you respect it, you'll be fine.
If you pay him $1, he'll show you his toe. But it's $1.
What, we've gone off into a weird place there. Tom. It's the internet.
But
all
in all,
Tom Sawyer.
Oh, okay.
Tom Sawyer.
Okay, that's what you're talking
grief.
about. Okay.
That's not, I mean, of course, it's been canceled already.
We're not talking about OF or anything.
No. Tom Sawyer. What, he charged a nickel to see his thumb or something? I don't,
okay.
Possibly. Well, so what else about glass plates? I mean, we've covered practically everything. It's really cool. I mean,
it's a great thing to, because it has a good knowledge from film. It's very informed. So if you're getting good at developing your film, you may want to try this. And in, like, even if you're not, maybe you like some of the things, the flaws, the very handmade nature of it. I mean, Jason, there's one guy that coats these. This is
just
not
one
a machine.
Guy.
It's not a. It's a one guy.
Jason is a machine. He's a machine.
He is a machine.
He comes back year after year.
He is very consistently
it's all done by
with
hand.
all his plates.
There's no machine that makes that all perfect like maybe they used to with the glass plates with Ilford and all that. So they're very.
It's just one guy working in the dark.
It's perfect in its imperfectness.
There you go. There you go.
I mean, one of the things that I love about the dry plates. Now, I obviously, you know, you've done the tin types and the wet plates before. I mean, you know, and I think one of the things that attracts me to it the most is the fact that I don't have to soup up a bunch of chemicals and I only have 15 minutes to work with. It's like you can go out with a half a dozen holders and go shoot and then come back and develop and you're okay. I mean, it's a stability type of thing.
Absolutely. In fact, they found some dry plates in Antarctica that they undug and were able to develop them.
Yes.
I mean,
they were almost 100 years old.
Just the fact that there's a certain stability to it is fantastic.
Yeah, it was the lost expedition.
I mean, I'm not really worried about dealing with the chemicals, you know, the ether and the cyanide and things like that. I'm not really worried about those things, but it's really nice that that, you know, it's so much more portable. I mean, I love the idea of shooting on glass because I love the effect it has, but it's just so much easier.
It's great. And
I'm sorry, Lisa. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Lisa.
No, yeah, it's all. And if you want to continue that route, that's a good in between film and wet plate. If you want to try dry plate for a little while, and then you know, getting into even more dangerous stuff. You know, with
Lisa, we'll be here in November.
Well, that's great.
I sorry.
I just got to put it in there.
He has something to say.
I do. I can contribute for a brief moment because we talked about this last time. It was a rumor, so I sent Lisa an email and said, "Hey, have you said
you're trying to confirm rumors now?"
Yes, and I said, "Have you set dates in Dallas?" And she goes, "Yes."
And I actually might want to take one of her classes. If she is offering something different, to say, So
we'll see.
You guys still doing that lunch thing? No? Okay, never mind.
Oh, yeah. In connection with when she comes in? Yeah. It's not lunch, it was dinner.
Okay.
It was,
food.
It was
drinks,
a hoedown.
and I brought food.
We just hang.
It was a hoedown and a cakewalk.
And so that will be going on during the time that she's here.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's anything, and a lot of that stuff transfers over. So like the dry plate rack, you can use wet plate holders for dry plate. You actually can just do it that way.
Yeah.
The double holders are more like film holders,
right?
Where you get to hold a lot more of them. But
I mean, I made a wet plate holder out of one of those graphite specs, or whatever, and I'm sure they would work just the same.
It would work just the same.
I have two of them, so I have two more holders then. So
exactly. So,
but they're only single shot though. You're just gonna put the one and close it, and you're done with it. So
exactly.
Yeah.
So, but it's a good transitionary thing if you're trying to get into wet plate, or maybe you just go to wet plate. But like, it's definitely something I think you should experiment with.
I mean, you have the same issues as far as getting enough light. So if you want to talk about the light, because that's one thing, you need a lot. If you're taking someone's portrait and you don't want them to be super blurry, or you don't want them to have to sit there for a long time, you need light.
30 seconds ISO 25. So that's, from ISO 100 to 50, that's twice as much light.
Yeah.
ISO 50 to 25, that's twice as much light. So, I mean, that it does take quite a lot. And then you get down to 2, which with the ISO 2, if you're under strobes, it's more like ISO 1.
Yeah.
Because they're UV, there's a whole bunch to that. And you'll get a little more speed if you're uncoated lenses, because they're UV sensitive on the older ones.
Yeah.
I think these are a little bit too, but not as much.
So how much light do you throw at somebody?
14,400 watt seconds.
Wow. 14,000 guys. And of course, I was asking you about this. I said, when you have somebody sitting down and they're about to be flashed, do you give them a pre-taste to the light? Because that's a lot of light.
It is a lot of light. You will feel it physically.
Because if you don't give them hey, this is what it's going to be like, all the pictures will be like, because that's when you're hit with that much light, it is super.
And then wet plate, I think, is ISO 0.5. So I think it's even twice as much to get from there to wet plate. I might be wrong about that. You might have to check with Lisa. I'm sure there's a range because of the chemicals and their age and so on. So
I thought it was about like 3. But it depends on how old your chemicals are.
Absolutely. And then if you want to get into negatives, that's even lower for wet plate negative. And then of course daguerreotype is 0.014.
So the more light, the merrier. Because
I mean, that take just a ton of light. You're gonna, full sun wide open. It's like 12 seconds still for dags. But that's why I selected my first shots to be outdoor landscape so that I could have a lot of light. Yeah. And even at that, I think some of these were they were very slow. I was probably, I don't know, 1/30th of a second or something like that. And of course, in a pretty wide open and all that kind of stuff. So. Right. Absolutely. I think that's it.
That's the tips, guys. So like I said, if you've got any other questions, please throw them down in the comments. We'll poke them and say, hey, Brody, you got some questions there. We don't know what they're talking about.
Dance first, Brody.
Be careful with glass too. It's glass.
Have you broken any?
Oh yeah, totally.
I mean, I was, like I said, I was very careful, but I felt like I thought one was going to snap trying to get them in those holders.
The Jason Lane, yeah, that's definitely the first time. The Jason Lane plates are ground on the edges, so they handle really
which is
easily,
nice.
Which is nice. Some of the ones that I made, they were just frame glass, so they were sharp as heck. And I've broken them and cut my hands, and there's a cut right here from one. Drop it.
That's one more tip, guys. It's glass.
Just be careful.
Yes. Now the other thing is I want to point out, I do have a big order with Jason Lang that will be coming in a week or two, and I've got like 5 or 6 of each. The 8x10 2, and 5 or 6 of the 8x10 2, 25, the 4x5. 2 and 25. So I've got a lot.
And you've also got some 5x7 for
I have some.
my guys that do the 5x7. I love that.
Yeah,
I know. I love
5x7, and I have 4x5, 5x7, and 8x10 holders here already,
and a rack,
2 racks.
Yep. The rack.
The rack.
Yes, the rack.
So everything you need besides the large format camera. Yeah. You've got the developer. You've got everything that you need.
He might be able to dig up a 4x5 around here somewhere.
But I placed this order a few weeks ago, and like everything else that's going on right now, he is so busy. He's biked up. I mean, he's making plates as quick as he can.
That's right.
And the
film industry cannot keep up
the door. So it's not just Ilford, Kodak, Cinestill, Fuji. It's dry plates.
It's everybody.
It's everything. Yeah. Everything in this whole industry at all levels is exploded.
I feel like that's good news.
It is.
Hopefully they have some money to invest in more machines and all that as time goes on.
Absolutely.
I think there. one little brag.
A brag. Not a tip, guys, but a brag.
The plates that I'm working on right now are 32 by 38 inches.
Oh.
Now those are print plates.
Okay.
I don't have a camera that large.
No, but that would be awesome.
But I'm making an Orotone.
We can't build one
with the gold at that size right now.
Wow.
That's the big project. Why I'm in Dallas which we can't talk too much about that project, but
no, we
but
can't.
that's why I'm here. So, but yeah, that's just a
he's
little
here
brag
to see us.
That's the biggest that I think that Jason's ever coated.
No, he's here to talk to us.
We got this rack that's gigantic, made out of 2x4. It's just huge. It's so fun.
I mean, handling a sheet of glass that big.
Yeah, and it's way thicker. It's like this
nightmare.
thick glass, and you gotta have 2 people to do it.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
You know, and when you're getting to big glass, the handling time. Remember, I said 15 to 30 minutes before you fog. You know, when you get into that big plate like that, and all the timing slow and everything, pulling it out of the box,
you're very close to the edge.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one of the things we have to watch, and also the developer only lasts 2 hours. You know, and
it's a crunch
and
time.
it's a one and done.
It's a hurry.
So it's you got to move it along. I'm excited about the project.
Okay, now you will be heading back up to Chicago pretty soon.
Yeah, probably towards the end of the
month. And then you will be making a trip back to the Dallas area.
Yeah, probably late October, early November.
Now, if somebody wanted to say, hey, when you come back, will you teach me?
Sure.
You're open for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what you do at that point is you just message him in Instagram.
That's the best place.
And just say, okay, when you come back to Dallas again, I would like to half a day or a day.
Or if you're in Chicago,
so that's a great idea, guys.
Same thing.
If you want Brody to teach a class, definitely go throw us down a comment, because the more names that we can get down there, the more you know, we can say, hey, this is a good thing to go for it.
But the thing is that whenever before he makes his trip back, it's tremendously helpful for him to sit there and have dates already in place.
Yep.
So that he can carve that time out, because he doesn't come out here just for this. He has other things that he does when he comes out here.
You mean
like my music?
Music.
Yeah,
let's just talk to us.
And talk to us. But when he does come back, by that time, he should be able to talk to us about what he can't talk about. That's true.
Well, all right. So with that, let's label one last question here.
Do that.
So I know we're still not going to talk about the project, but is there a future gallery show or anything like that? Are you working on some, like you said, you're shooting architecture in Chicago and different things like that? I mean, is there a future gallery show coming up?
There will be. That's not in place just yet. I'm still making the images.
Okay.
Because some of this stuff takes a lot of planning, and of course, you know, when we get into those really big plates, it become very expensive. I have to budget. And
budget.
Yeah,
it's like you're spending your own money or something.
Yeah, I am.
What's that like?
I don't know.
So there will be at some point, but I don't have anything.
Okay,
I can't even tell you where it's going.
Well, we will certainly let you guys know.
There is a gallery in Fort Worth that I've talked to, and they're very interested. We just haven't set a date. And then there's a gallery in Chicago that's also interested, but I can't really move the glass stuff back and forth. You know, that's especially when you start getting big. That's one of the big downsides of it. You don't really want to transport it too far.
It's hard to move.
It is hard, or expensive to move if you want to have an art mover. So
oh my gosh, yeah.
Well, guys, I think that's going to wrap it up for us here. Like I say, if you have any more questions at all about glass plates, about Jason lanes, about holders, about shooting, anything at all, just please throw us a comment down there. We'll poke Brody to say, hey, we got more questions for you. He'll chime in and answer them, which would be great.
Also, check out his Instagram.
Check out his Instagram,
because we always talk about that. Like, share.
Yes, please do share, like, subscribe.
And you can see and take some comfort. You can see where I started. My very first plates are posted there. You can just scroll back a little bit.
Check out the Instagram.
And you can see the progression of how they've come along.
You can message him on Instagram. Now, I sit there and I tell him all the time. He says, when people come in here, there are 2 people that I say, hey, check out these Instagram pages, and you're one of them. And it's like, yeah, you know, it's just you notice, like, every now and then you'll just get 1, 2.
I do.
It's slow. You're not doing anything. It's just slowly growing. And if you look and you're around the Dallas area, I told them,
thank you.
Go check this out, because it's not just the glass work. It's his work on 8x10 Provia slide.
Yeah.
Cinestill, the 800T work on Cinestill is fun. Concerts.
It's all over the place, guys. Go check it out. And links will be in the description.
Yes, and thank you. So like, share both, and comment.
Yes, absolutely. Well, that's going to be it for us, guys. So we'll see y'all later.
Yeah, take care. And we rise. And we walk out. All right.
So we had to give him instructions.
Yeah, we know this by heart.
I know how to do this. I know how to do this. Oh, don't trip. Don't trip.
I got.
Look out.
That's a lot cleaner than it had.
Hey, Timber.
Is it not cleaner back there than it had been?
I think we were highly successful this time.